Henging with Vrand.
Oh god, not again.
Vranting with Matt.
Satting. We're satting in chairs.
Satting with Vrant.
Melting away.
Chris is wearing the big boy pants.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I think I would call those baby boy pants.
Baby boy pants. Beige baby boy pants.
Yeah, true.
They look like faded out Carhartt work pants. Like the.
Hey, you should try these someday. I really enjoy them.
I mean, I can vouch I have the same pants pretty much.
Ah.
Yeah.
Got like 4 pairs, different colors.
I have one. Beat me.
Get with the times, Paul.
I am not with the times. I am so far behind the times.
You know why I like these pants? Because when I bend over, the pants don't come ripping down my bum to see my flat bottom.
Flat bottom boys. The rockin' world goes round.
It's more like a symbol.
In this episode, we talk about Chris's flat butt.
Flat, hairy butt. Short crack. Disgusting image, isn't it?
Picture it.
Okay.
So what's the topic today?
Today's topic.
Different tracks and how to approach them differently.
Yes. We were going to go a couple places with this, but we'll start out with my experiences of driving Western Speedway in Victoria, BC, versus driving at Pat's Acres in Portland, which is about as different as you can get. A short, small, tight go-kart track to a big open oval with a paved infield and some additions that is pretty open and whatever. What would you even call that? It's just so open and
It's
open to your interpretation.
Yeah, that's we rerun
Because you can
variety
do,
of
because
layouts.
for instance, when we were doing at the last one, was it crab or something?
Pumpkin.
And when we're coming back out, you come from the infield and then back onto Big Bank, but coming counterclockwise, I was pushing out to the wall, whereas everyone else I noticed was riding the inside curb and around that, and then trying to link to the second entrance, like front straight, and then into the infield again. Yeah. Whereas I was riding the wall way out wide.
There's many ways to
but I was just like, where's everybody going?
Well,
what am I doing over here, bro?
That layout was not crab, and it wasn't pumpkin. That was a new one. That was the,
that was the one that
snail
I
snot,
snail fart,
snail
fart or whatever it was.
Whatever you guys called it.
It was
small block.
It was crab, but it was.
But I was like, where are we going?
No.
It's hard to explain, but it's hard to explain. You're going backwards on Big Bank onto the front straight, where it doesn't have a proper line because you're going from low speed into a high speed bank onto a front straight, which it's escalating speed.
And you're monging.
Yeah.
Well, some are monging, some
were pushing, which was pretty sick ass.
Yeah. No, the majority were monging. It was, I don't know. Driving that personally, it was hard to follow because you didn't know whether people were going to push or whether whether they were going to start monging.
They're going to try and get out by the wall and miss third gear like Paul, or if they're going to ride the inside curve, or if they're just going to blast a bunch of oil at you and spin you out.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. No, speaking about that though, just hard to judge whether you're going to do that, but you have all that open space to do that, whereas park, I assume you wouldn't. I have never driven park, but
park.
Well, it's a difference of adaptation versus a linear path that you have to follow.
Totally, yeah.
And that's where I have difficulties at Western. I have great difficulty following people at Western because I'm not a local. I don't have the seat time there, so I don't have. I don't know where someone's going to go.
No.
Whereas at park, even my first day at park, it's you just follow the car in front of you.
Yeah.
And there is nowhere else to go. And
well, so that's the same as Western, though.
But it isn't, because you can misjudge at Western. Because being someone who's drifted a lot and driven on a road a lot, what I see at Western while following is not at all what I would do. So I can't say this guy's going to stay on the road if he goes hard here, whereas I would push wide and this guy's going in tight. It's like, why would you do that? That's the inexperienced drivers that we have. But it's also a byproduct of having a wide open field to drive in.
It is. Yeah. Even though you give
Evergreen Evergreen or any of the ovals in FD, watching FD, you watch the Pro-Am type stuff, not the Pro 2 or the Pro 1. I guess what is it just Pro 2?
Pro 2 is kind of the level lower than Pro 1.
And then there's just FD.
Whatever, it's wannabe FD.
But if you watch the non-pro top dog stuff, it's the similar kind of feel where it's like, where was that guy going?
Which is odd. There's only
where
so
are
many
you going?
places to go.
And the judges tell you exactly where to go. And
yes, it's highly regulated.
So you should be kind of getting your car to where they tell you. But somewhere like Park, because there is grass on both sides, you're on a strip of pavement and there's grass, you naturally just keep your car on the pavement. Whereas at Western, and we used to do this at DMCC too, if there's an event that's like a parking lot type thing and there was too few cones, you would have people entering at completely different trajectories to get to the same spot. And you will get to the same spot eventually, but it's an unfollowable thing, because there was events that I've done where it's just like, where in the fuck is the lead car going?
It's a funnel.
Like, you can't get to the cones from where you initiated. Like, what are you doing? And it was so frustrating, especially in a low power car where you have to carry a ton of momentum, because back then it was like 130 horsepower probably, carbureted 3T. But yeah, super frustrating following when there's someone, it's always like that, someone with a high power V8 car that could just roll into throttle whenever they want and make it, and you're trying to use momentum. But yes, Western / a wide open-ish track without locals knowledge, very hard to drive. Whereas Park, I feel like Park or US Air or what's Apple Valley
go-kart tracks.
Apple
Go-kart
Valley,
tracks
yeah,
in
like
general.
small tight go-kart tracks, but they're shifter kart tracks, so they're not small. Like US Air is a big track. Like,
Small is in width as well.
yeah, but US
So
Air
it's
isn't narrow. It's big. And New Park is quite a bit wider. And Apple Valley is fairly narrow. They're like a normal road, though.
I'm speaking like narrow as in 2, maybe 3 lanes wide,
Yeah.
where it's tight, it's manageable. It's just,
Yeah.
speaking as someone who hasn't been to those different places.
Yeah. But there's a very defined line that you have to stay on just to stay on the track. Whereas Western or Penticton or Spirit Peaks even, it's so wide and there's so many options, and there isn't really like a natural in and out clipping point or natural entrance and exit and apex. It's just,
See, that's the weird thing too, is that
whatever
I
you
hear
want.
that some people won't go to Western because there's things to hit. And I'm like,
there's like
there's so many
acres of stuff to not hit.
Well, I mean, there's yes and no.
That's just an excuse.
There are walls.
It is, I know, I get that. But at the same
I
time,
hate walls, but walls are walls.
Yeah.
They don't jump out and surprise you. If you're online, you're not going to hit the wall.
what's the difference between like what I see as Park is it's lower speed and there's runoff and there's not much that you can still hit a tree or a blackberry bush or whatever, but you have to be going very wrong very quickly, which is the same thing at Western as well, where there's plenty of ways to drive to avoid contact with anything, but people still manage to hit things because they're going outside their bounds or they're trying something new or something odd, which is, I mean, when you have so much freedom and you don't have a box to be contained in, everything you can try everything, and then some people get overwhelmed with choices that
I do.
and both have.
I can't decide what to do. Every run is totally different.
But you can look at Nico as well, where you have most of the track is very linear. Everyone does the same push, the same same things until you get to the 2 back straights. So
And then it's 3 motion, or
it's either
try
3
and stretch
motions,
it, or
cooling down, not doing it, doing a pull, whatever.
Yeah.
There's still
brake checks.
Yeah.
Just making sure everything's working.
Then you see that there's still outside the linearity. You have someone there's no more rules when you're on those straights where things happen. You're like, you either adapt to it or you don't.
Yeah, that's also a very different thing with the way drifting West Coast, because I'll say West Coast because Park, Spirit Peaks, like Vancouver Island at Western, not necessarily hot lap, but when I go drifting at Park or Spirit Peaks or at Western, and Western in particular, because just the way that the drift scene has grown in Western, even in competitions, the runs are a minute and a half or 2 minute, like it's a lap and a half or two around the whole course that's been laid out in a competition instead of 2 or 3 corners. Or like at park, when I go to park, basically the goal of the day is to get the perfect lap, link the entire track from start cone to shutdown cone, and get it dialed and have like your line and your angle and all your spots that you wanted to hit. Get your perfect run is always a goal. It's never, I guess because you're past a point, but it's never the 1 or 2 corner. Like, I'm working on this corner today, just want to get this corner dialed in. It's never been a 1 corner. I've always been like the whole course.
Does park do competition of 1-on-1?
They do
that
sometimes.
Seems like it'd be so hard to
they do
judge.
sometimes here and there, but it's not like...
It seems that's a team sort of thing to me.
Yeah, I've been there with actually Scremin and Schroeder and Cody Ross came down, and the day that they were down there at park and we were driving a bunch, they actually ran a top 16 competition just in the middle of everything. So it wasn't like they'd never shut down the track. There was just a couple guys who came around the pits and were like, if you want to enter, let us know and we'll put your name on a list. And then all we're doing is basically you get next to the guy that you're going against in line. So you kind of had to, like, Cody Ross and I drove against each other like 3 or 4. I think we went up against each other a bunch. We did 3 or 4 laps next to each other, just switching front and back. But the hilarious thing was they didn't shut down the line or run it as a top 16 or like a tandem battle. So literally, if I was going against Cody Ross, it was potentially Matt, Cody, Berlin, Justin Lucas, Cody Ross, me, freaking James Vick. Like, there could have been any number of cars with the 2 cars competing against each other in the middle of it.
The proximity.
So it was hilarious. Like, you're running a top 16
that is
bracket, but you were literally like, if you didn't want to, you could be like 2 fingers out the window and be like, it's us 2, we're serious competition here. But we were literally just in the middle of a group of cars, and they're like, okay, we're judging those guys in the middle.
Weird.
So it was rainy and wet, and it was hilarious.
It's hectic.
That was the only like top 16 style whatever bracket competition. And even then, like when we drift park at Final Bout, it's do the whole lap, like from start to finish. All 12 corners have to be linked and no straightening and good proximity, or else you didn't do a lap.
Maybe there's a difference between straightening and flat out burnout though too.
Yeah, there is, but park, especially, I haven't been since they've repaved it, but now there's zero excuse to straighten, and the only place that you had an excuse was between Deadman's and the super tight hairpin, because it was too, Deadman's is too slow, you can't, and too acute, you can't carry speed through it to get that little straightaway, so you either manjied it or drove it straight and reinitiated. But that's the rest of it's very linkable. And there is one spot where you're basically trying to do a rolling burnout and keep a little bit of angle before you transition, and that's coming into Deadman's. But yeah, there is a difference between straightening, and sometimes you're allowed to straighten. But if you watch Nico or some of the other, there's another one in particular, Meehan and Nico. If you watch footage from there, a lot of the times it's do the 2-3 corners, and then the rest is just cool down.
Yeah. Well, that's most of D1 is only a couple corners.
Yeah, but that's competition style. But even on like an open day at Nico, most people just do that initiation with the dirt, or the not dirt drop because it's paved, but the 3-wheel overrun, and then you do that section. No one really drifts the rest of the track, and that's a lot of.
I like the idea of the back part of Nico.
Yeah, I like
even more
for
so.
the car.
I'd be trying to drift the whole thing.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But a lot of that different, like non-Western
Yeah.
style is do 2 or 3 corners, and then the rest of the lap is cool down. Whereas I'm
Seems
just
so
like,
strange. Like,
let's make everything burn.
It's very much like skateboarding.
It saves your tires and it saves your engine doing like 2-3 corners versus doing the whole friggin' destroy everything run.
Yeah.
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 Which is weird. Like watching Alexi's videos, he drifts the full track all the time.
Yeah.
I could, and watching the other people he's driving with, them not doing the full thing,
Yeah.
makes sense too.
Yeah, they both make sense. I get way too excited to focus on like 1 or 2 or 3. Like if it's linkable, we're linking the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing when we get to the track. Always, for especially Matt Panic and I, it's like, okay, let's keep it easy. Keep like 10 car lengths, just take it easy because we haven't seen each other for a while. Let's get it warm up, and then it's just like straight on the door. It doesn't like we always are like, oh, we'll take it easy. We'll take it easy, and then it's all out the window as soon as you cross. As soon as you're in the car and the guy's like, whoop, go. It's like, no, fuck it.
Muscle memory.
Instant muscle memory.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, I don't know. It's super fun. I miss driving with Matt a lot because Matt and I don't hold back, and we've run into each other enough, and we know each other well enough to not be too worried about damaging or being upset about it. We have both gotten upset with each other in the past, but yeah, it's pretty funny.
But that's
we'll
really
sit in,
you
like,
can still get that here.
I know, but it's just like there's nothing better in my for me. There's absolutely nothing better than like
smashing into people.
No, the sparkly blue in front of me and a big orange reflection in my mirror is like the best feeling in the world. Like between Cody and Matt is the best fucking thing ever because you're gonna throw it in at Matt's door and you're like, yeah, the car is so pretty, and then there's just Cody in your ear and you're just like, what? It's so good. Like I don't know. It's really, really weird. It's not as pleasurable drifting anywhere else with anyone else.
I can see that too. Like I really enjoyed driving with Matt, whether I'm passenger or driving like 2 different cars.
Yeah.
Or with Warren. There's familiarity because you know how that person's going to react and also how they approach the driving.
Yeah, I'd love to drive with Warren a lot more.
We just don't have that anymore because a lot of us moved on or things changed.
Everybody grew up, got responsible, stopped throwing all their money away.
Depends. But you can always recreate that, but if it goes away, you just kind of do your own thing.
Yeah.
Things will come back into swing though. They always kind of, even if it's not the same thing at all. Do its cycle.
We can revitalize the butt nutters, the 3 of us.
Oh yeah.
Drive.
No, we will.
It'd help if the cars were more
similarly set up.
Yeah. That's the beauty of
all 3 of our cars are very,
Very
different.
Yeah, that's the beauty of Dynasty.
Especially when Chris brings a different color or a different
car
car each time.
Yeah. Yep.
And they drive very differently.
Yeah.
Yep. I was very excited though last time when I lined up behind you. I was like, oh yeah, Miata, this will be sweet and fun. And then you took off and I was like, oh yeah, he's turbo now. I gotta like actually put my throttle down because last time I don't even know if I've driven with you since the car has been turboed.
I've had bad luck following you. The first time I followed you, I ended up backwards into a wall because your car's snappy and I was trying to snap the same angle as you, and I just over rotated right into the wall.
Well, that day you had 13s with shitty tires, so you're doing the
It was raining too, and I had a thick sway bar in the back. And then just the past event we had, I maybe it was your catch can overflowing or whatnot, but it was super slippery, and I just went flying off the track.
It shouldn't have been at the first corner because it should have still been, but yeah. I felt really bad.
No, that's fine. I felt bad for Graham. I almost hit Graham. He was flagging on the side. He was like dead deer. Dead-eyed deer.
Yeah, deer in the headlights.
Oh, look out, move.
Get out of the way!
Yeah. It was great.
I have no control over this thing.
There is some like weird vibes that happen. Like I cannot drive with Trigger. If we sit in each other's seats, there's this like weird aura that happens where like with Kevin, myself, and Monks getting together, we're 3 alcoholics in our own respects that have our own like stories and interesting thing. When we get together, it just cancels each other out. We all become lame old people. Yeah. It's sort of like that with driving, where if Matt's in my passenger seat, I'll lay down an excellent lap, or if Warren's in my car, you just have that like good vibes. Yeah. I hate saying that. Good energy that's within the people in there, and you just enjoy. You just want that to be. There's some sort of weird thing with Matt and I, who's an amazing driver, and I always like. I guess I choke and he chokes as well because we both will like spin out or have some weird thing that happens. And it's awful, and you're just like, I can't have you in here. This is something is wrong with my brain that doesn't allow this to work.
Yeah, I had fun with Grant.
I haven't driven with him yet.
Years ago now.
Yeah,
we had a lot of fun. That was. Yeah, Pumpkin like 2 years ago probably because I didn't drive it last year.
Button Under's version 2.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
That was Travolta.
I remember that day.
Travolta?
Yeah,
That was the wall day.
That was funny.
Yeah, he's back on topic.
Yeah. That is our topic. Big versus little.
Well, it's about adapting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's definitely pros and cons to both. If you have somewhere like Park, you focus on lines on that track
Yeah.
and how to best utilize what is there in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Much like Grange or Apple Valley
Yeah.
as well, because you're so limited by what you can do. The only place for you to express driver freedom is in the entry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it. Everything else is you can't do anything outside of that. With Western, it's still limiting as to what you can do, and we have a variety of different layouts to utilize all the different places to try to teach people how, like, to come in really hot, like in the hairpin there, to go from really hot to really slow, to then monging there, the backwards.
Yeah, my favorite is the Lego wall into the hairpin.
Yeah.
And then to learning curb.
Yeah, which is an amazing.
Which is super fun because you can get it up into third and fly it.
That
Lego,
130
fly
kilometer
Lego
There's a hill,
wall, and then
there's a hill and bushes and
Yeah.
all sorts of
back it
fun
into the
things.
hairpin, and then you've got that like straight chunk to Manji, and then do your best to like do it in 3 motion and get it all the way around to out to learning curve wide.
Yeah, it's fun.
So I like that struggle of getting from the hairpin to learning curb.
Yeah.
But having to be wide at learning curb so you don't learning curb it that's a struggle because that's
It's wide and narrow.
it's a long way to go.
You got a lot
But
of
it
push.
To
also-
do it in like 3 motion is like a long way to go.
Yeah.
It's sweet. So I love that challenge of like
I love the flick
What-
into it.
yeah.
That feels the best.
Just the hop. It's the hop that I always
Yeah, because there's that little
come out
bridge.
on
I love that.
onto
so
the
much.
bank because
Yeah.
you go "Whoop," and then you got to get it. You
It's an
gotta-
off
it's
camber
so hard,
jump.
and then after that hop you have very little chance of slowing down.
Depends, but you also have runoff.
But if
as
your
well.
trajectory is wrong and
Yeah.
you're coming at learning curb,
you should
learn.
you should
and you're
know,
fixated on it, and you're not just gonna straighten out and
you
drive
should
onto
know
the
that
straightaway.
you're like, I fucked up. I went way too wide here.
Hitting the inside of that apex is fun too because it'll like shoot your car on 2 wheels.
Yeah.
It's the
little
NBC
bounce.
jump.
Yeah.
The little
And then
jump.
the other I haven't been able to figure it out yet, but the jump in the infield.
Oh, it's fucking
I
fun.
haven't figured it out yet how to get to it or like how to hit it properly.
The
That's
trick
on my
is-
list of things to do is to break tie rods trying to do that.
The trick is to the trick is to
popping tires off.
the trick is to initiate it right before, so you're basically shooting yourself sideways in the air,
Yeah.
unloading the car off the
Also
jump.
depends on where you hit it because
But you gotta figure-
it grades. The farther out you go is the bigger grade, and if you go more towards the center, it's less, but still a
Yeah,
jump.
wide out is really fun.
Yeah,
You have to figure it out, and then you're basically getting.
it sends you right towards the lamp.
Yeah, I
if
know,
you,
that's what
if
it
you
does.
shallow it
I
out.
say like you
Yeah, you really got to be in it.
you're
It's
throwing it over
slingshot
this
you.
thing, and the only possible outcome is that light pole.
Yeah,
Well, or you miss the light bulb and just go way off.
Yeah,
Of course.
but it's like doing the big entry into that opposite, and you've got the tire and the light pole waiting for you.
Yeah, if you wash out.
Yeah.
But the other thing is too is that with the openness, it allows you to experiment on entries, so clutch kicks, handbrakes, whatever.
Yeah.
I find that there's a lot less. It still happens with a lot of the newer kids. They'll just instinctively just touch the handbrake like it's a hot potato. It's there, or they drag it way too long, and
it's a good track to learn on.
it's a good track to learn a lot of. Everything that your car can do will be there because there's so much cabbage, which is uneven pavement for those not understanding what cabbage is.
Here's some
There's just so many different types of surfaces and corners and challenges in those corners to learn more about your car.
Yeah.
Driving there for over the 10 years, it's definitely gone stale, but you still find corners.
Yeah.
That's why we try different layouts and do different things because it's something different, and the car, whether it likes it or not, will be like, oh, this is interesting. It's a new challenge. Whether it works or not is something completely different. But like going from infield out to Big Bank, which is what the track layout was last time, it's a very short, quick zigzag, and then into a big
Yeah,
big
and then you gotta
expanding
try and fill
wall.
this huge space up. Yeah,
That if you're in low second gear, to go up higher into second gear by the time most people get to third, it's sort of way too late, where you should have already initiated, you should have already been in whatever, or if you have the power or lack of grip, you can upshift early, which I think is what you were doing in the Miata, is that like you carried third gear for most of the bank already, and then wound out the gear.
I was kind of short shifting into third and then letting it,
which was sick, but most can't. I mean, it's a very weird corner to like try to, which is why I said like you can do Manji, because speaking from experience, he just sort of like, I dumbed out and just like didn't do it properly. Fucking crashed. But it's you gotta try something new. I know a lot of kids don't like it. We try to push them into trying different things so that they learn more, which is likely why the 250 Island has such amazing drivers that can go anywhere and do well, because they have tried so many different things. I think if someone was to learn just on park, they wouldn't adapt so well to a lot of different tracks, because they're used to driving a certain way.
It's a speed thing too.
Yeah,
you have to control weight at a higher rate of speed at, say, Western compared to park.
and
I'd assume I've never
driven
driven park, but
handbrake and slowing.
kinda. Park's really fast.
is it? How fast
If
do you
you're
get going on the
driving
front straight?
If you're driving well, front straight is irrelevant because you don't drift the front straight and you enter from top of second.
Yeah.
But like turn 3 is fast,
Yeah.
like really fast, and it's grass to trees. They removed the tree on the inside clip, but like it's fast. And I'm the opposite opinion. Whereas if you learn how to drift somewhere tight and ridiculous like park, with a lot of varying corners and elevations and weird bumps, because park wasn't perfect before either. They've repaved it, so it's different surface now. But when it was tight and ridiculous and you had to control your car to get it off an apex or into an outside, because it's the only way to make it, I feel like you have like I've felt when I went there the first couple times and figured it out that I was 1,000 times better driver than I was previously.
Yeah, there's no room for error.
Yeah, because
you're also changing direction constantly.
Yeah, but like turn 3 is like turn 1, turn 2 is a hairpin, turn 3 is from the hairpin all the way back around the tree to the end, and you're coming back into the infield at park. Like turn 3 is like 4 corners. Like there's 4 or 5 apexes, like 3 outers, 2 inners. It's a long ass corner, and it's a complex, and it's awesome. And it's to get it, you can't do it with just throttle.
Is it third gear stuff?
It can be.
Yeah.
Because we're tandeming all the time, we avoid third because downshift mid drift is sketchy.
Yeah, just inconsistent.
Cody is always in third.
Yeah.
Cody Berlin, with the UZ and without a J160, because the third to second shift is pretty sketchy with the Alteza gearbox. So Matt and I have avoided it, but I built a new thing to help alleviate that problem, and I'm pretty confident with it now. But like,
I feel like you can see what you're talking about though with like Evergreen, for example, which is it's way wider, that you don't learn anything. You learn
just to
you don't learn
throttle.
You probably don't learn technique. You can learn.
because there's so much runoff. There's no repercussions for you messing up. That you can just do whatever. That's also the parking lot thing.
Yeah.
A lot of parking lot places around North America where people just don't learn. If they mess up, they go into a bunch of cones as opposed to giant walls.
Yeah, because going off at park, like on turn 3, if you go off well, you're going to roll your car. There's nothing to stop you except a berm that will just roll you.
Sick.
Yeah. Turn 3 is awesomely, hilariously serious. I've done it in third.
Death is cool.
And it's scary as hell. Because there's shit. There's a huge tree in the inner apex.
Yeah.
And apart from like the dirt drops and like curbs that will rip your wheels off, and I run 60 series sidewalls, and you can still ding the lip of your wheel on these curbs. Like, it's not... it's serious. Like, I feel I'm more scared doing second gear turn 3 at park than big bank in third. Big bank in third is easy peasy.
Big bank
like flying
easy.
at Lego wall in third going 120 is nothing compared to turn 3.
Yeah.
because that's just a wide open giant corner. It's like 6 lanes wide.
Yeah, I think
Turn 3 at Park ends with a hairpin.
Yeah.
And you're at the top of second, gripping at the top of second. So it's at like 90 kilometers per hour actual speed, not wheel speed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's scary, and you basically have to come to a stop at the end of it, or you're into trees, forest.
I want to drive this track.
There is like a little runoff that like if you take that runoff, you're gonna T-bone or get T-boned by other people linking the course.
Sick.
Like there's no run out at the end of 3.
Oh,
Turn 3 and third, the couple times that I have done it, is hairy because it just changes the attitude of the car, like the way that the grip moves you around. It's
Border's
so
got to
weird.
open up.
Yeah, I really can't wait to go back to Park. But I like Western. You can learn because there is less repercussion,
Mm-hmm.
and you're free to experiment, which is great because there is less repercussion. You're already on a racetrack, so there isn't the cops, there isn't people's lawns and fire hydrants, and the repercussions of getting it wrong. You're probably still gonna get a good lap. It might not be what you saw in your head, whereas somewhere like Park, the repercussion is you're either dirt dropping and getting kicked out because Chris doesn't want you on his grass, or going off track, or hitting somebody in another car, right? So there's different levels of, and I feel both are required. Like to be complete, you should be able to learn and experience wide open spaces and do your thing. I personally have never been a donut / figure 8 guy in a parking lot, like going and just doing donuts and figure 8s in an open space.
That never interests me.
I'm just like, yeah, I did a donut. Okay, sweet, I'm going home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you gonna do
yourself
with
out.
this? Yeah, like what are you gonna do with this? Like, there's no. What's the end goal of that? Just Australian burnout contests? Just hooning?
Which is also its own perfected nonsense.
I know, but. Yeah.
I get what you're saying though.
I would rather be.
And I'm not
I would
saying-
rather be grip driving on a road course than doing donuts in a parking lot by a long
grip
shot.
driving
Different
is,
things.
I think, way more.
I'd
scary
rather be
than
getting
drifting.
kicked off track for having too much slip angle than doing donuts in a parking lot. Like if there was one or the other that I could have, I would just be grip driving.
No, honestly, grip driving scares me more than.
It's
drifting.
harder.
it's-
It's a
yeah.
lot harder work. Like physically, when I think we talked about this once before, doing Race City road course, and we had a couple nights where it was split 50-50 to make it cheaper, more affordable, and so we had like 15-minute drift session, 15-minute lapping sessions, and the drift guys were all like, fuck yeah, we're just gonna hot lap all night. So we would just pull back into the pit, and then you would go back out with the lap guys who were just turning laps. So you would drift for a couple minutes, and then you'd pull into the pit, and they'd switch, and you'd just go out with the other guys. It's so much harder on your shoulders and your head with the G's, because drifting, there is G's, but you're typically back into your seat. Like it changes it. Yeah. You're not like getting pulled forward into the side as much.
It's a smooth G. It's not a jerky G.
And you don't have to hold your wheel against the feedback, because when you're drifting, you're like let go of the wheel. The wheel just does its thing. You don't even need it after you initiate, and then you hold on to it a little bit. Whereas you're gripping around a corner at 180 kilometers per hour. You're like,
yeah, and
it's hard.
if
Your
it
arms
loses
hurt.
Grip, loses grip. There's nothing you can do. You're just going.
Yeah, your arms hurt. It's actually like the amount of physical effort at high speed was so much greater to do a lap in a grip situation. And we weren't switching tires or anything. We were literally just drift the course, blah, and then come back into the pits and they're like, okay, hot lap, okay, what? And you just pull right back out. You're on the same tires, so it's not like they're high grip tires. So we're like kind of like, what? Trying not to drift. Because this is like, I was doing it in an 8.6 with a stock blue top, so trying not to grip. So I had like just chalk tires on it. So it was hilarious, but it was pretty fun.
That's why I highly suggest that anyone who does drifting does grip. And if they do it in their
Do some
drift
autocross
car,
stuff? Do
no,
everything.
not autocross.
I like autocross. It teaches you precision.
Yeah, I can agree to that. It's another driver skill that
If you can run over cones without knocking them over, and you can get your car on cones on either side.
Okay,
to
I'll rephrase that. So autocross
Precision.
is good in theory. It's just the fact
Oh,
that
the people.
the governing bodies. well, no, well, yeah, but I mean, you spend,
And the
you
seat
spend
time
your money
is-
and you get 3 laps.
Yeah,
That's
the seat
not-
time
I
is
enjoy
atrocious. Yeah.
The idea of going through different cones is fun. It's just going to an autocross course where you get 3 laps is just
spending an entire long weekend, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, at an autocross event, and coming home with 5 minutes of GoPro footage.
Yeah.
Like, I spent 24 hours plus in this parking lot this weekend, and I got 5 minutes on track.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Well, that's
it was fun while you're in the car, and you're talking to like
which I think is
the absolute like god level nerds. Like, you're talking about where you're getting like you're doing track walks and stuff, and like conversing with autocross guys, and it's just like
that's a whole other level of
like, whoa, like you're analyzing this pretty hard.
Yeah. I think that's what I'd like to see with Grippy Feet is to do more cones, less high speed, just for the technicality of, and it's also varied too. Like it takes a lot more time to set up, and I don't think we have enough cones for that. But I think we should do more.
But you could basically just do a couple of the tall cones,
but we don't need a lot.
You can also challenge it with proper gymkhana where you throw in a proper donut here. And
I would just throw a couple cones as like apex. So if you move the apex around on people,
I like the ziggy zaggies. I like the movement of going sideways. Yeah,
it's like skiing. Oh yes,
gotta incorporate that the jump into that
slalom with a jump.
You got to go over the grass too.
The jump is fun when you're grip driving.
It's freaking horrendous.
That one time in Warren Civic.
God.
Warren Civic was the best.
I was hitting the
once again garbage car that
garbage.
you don't give a heck, and then you just go for it, and you got like up on 2 wheels, and you're flying sideways on 1 wheel, and it's like
it's the Grippy Feats I did in the Altezza. We were hitting the jump, and then I switched with Michael Sean for the TE, the AE71.
That's a fun car.
We swapped cars, and that was hilarious. Hitting the jump in the Altezza is like whoosh, even on coilovers and stuff. Hitting it in the TE is like, and you're just like, oh my god, I'm gonna die!
That car's set up
hilarious.
Very well.
That thing was so fun. Really, really fun car.
Well, that's a high car versus a low car though too. So it's.
I know. This is like the Altezza is like this weird boat thing that. And talking to Corey Bergerud at that event was hilarious too, because we were trying to make the car rotate, and he's looking at my setup and he's like, "What are you even fucking doing with your life? Like, you've got wide tires on the front and skinny tires on the back, or sorry, wide wheels on the front and skinny wheels on the back, and skinny tires on the front and wide tires on the back, and you're fighting understeer? Weird."
Yeah, but you're talking to
because I had my wheels.
Suit.
I know, but I also had it just set up so I didn't have to run spacers on the front to get good fitment. It's fully just for looks. It was fully just for looks. I was making wheels with weak offsets fit decent, so I ended up with 8.5 plus 30s on the front and 8 plus 45 on the back.
Honestly, fitment is the issue with
I didn't want
every
spacers
car.
on the front. I just put big spacers on the back because I didn't want shimmies in the steering wheel, so I ran the front with no spacer. But now I've finalized my fitment and it's perfect.
Nice. You're a cataloger for sure.
Oh, dude, it's totally a catalog car, the eBay catalog of wheel spacers. I don't know where my stack.
Are you looking for a
I
catalog?
was going to show off my stack of wheel spacers used to live there. I rearranged.
You got any 5x14?
Yep.
You got
spacers or wheels?
No, spacers.
Some deals going down.
I need some 15s. This is a whole other conversation.
Some 15 mil spacers or adapters?
15 mil.
Oh, everybody! I want 15s bad. It's like the perfect size, but they're hard to find because they're right on that cusp of like being too narrow to be a bolt-on.
Yeah. Well, I got long
really,
studs though.
I do too, but
you
it's
have
right on that border, so they're actually hard to get.
The short lugs for them too.
Yeah, the weird if it's a bolt-on, there's custom pieces.
Yeah. For sure.
25s
are everywhere.
Yeah. But 15 is like that spot where it's like.
No, but you got to modify your spacers and get long studs, and knock out all the studs.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm about to do with my fancy ones. Push the studs out, use them for the winters.
Have you ever stacked spacers like 2 25 mils?
I've never really. I had 33 mil bolt-on spacers on the Mango way back in the day on the back before I had a GTS rear in it to fill the flares. But other than that, I've never really ran spacers other than like little tiny 5 and 8 millimeter slip-ons. But it doesn't have enough clearance to actually need spacers.
We got really off topic there again.
Yeah, spacers.
Are we off topic? Are we in spacers now?
No, yeah.
We're in space.
We're in fitment.
We have gone to space and we're talking about fitment on grippy feet cars.
After running the
Let's
Civic,
talk about grippy feet. Okay, we're turning this off. This is 40 minutes.
Have a good night again.
Have a great evening or morning if you're eating your breakfast, and we will
just have a good day. Just have a good day.
Have a good time.
I don't want anyone to have a good day. I think everybody should have a stressful, horrible life.
Oh, this is why we're friends.
And on that note,